Hi, and welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. For those of you who are new, this format here is really simple. You just ask questions. You can email them to us in advance, which a couple of folks have, or post them in the chat. And it takes a moment for them to show up. So start posting your questions now and say hello so that we know you're here. I'm David A. Fields, and I'm joined today by, there he is, by Sean Riches, special guest. And Sean is an expert in improving the effectiveness of leadership teams. I met Sean when we were working together at a client in the UK and was very impressed and knew we had to have him on here to answer all of your questions about aligning your leadership team, even if your leadership team is you or you and some subcontractors. So Sean, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for asking me, David. It's a real pleasure.
Excellent. So hi Dan, type your questions in the chat, but I know there were a few submitted ahead of time. So Jaron, what's in our magic bag of questions? You post them and I'll read them. Mike, you have no sound. You can let us, if hopefully other people can tell us if we have sound. I'm just transitioning from having a solo firm to building a larger consulting firm. I'd like to hear from Sean how I actually build a leadership team that's effective. In the past, I've been pretty bad at delegating decisions. All right. And I suspect that's going to get in the way when I try to create an executive level for my firm. Okay. What do you think, Sean? That's an interesting situation. A lot of folks are in that. It's just starting to build out their team. What's the secret here?
Yeah, and it's a situation I can identify with myself. I am a fully paid up sort of control freak, or at least I have been in my younger days. Hopefully I'm mellowing a bit now. And yeah, so I identify with this. I think, you know, the person that's asked the question there, Suzanne, I think it is, clearly recognizes that empowerment and delegation needs to happen to scale your business. And, you know, it can't just be you making all the right decisions, and because they're not going to be right if it's just you. We need to be open to the thoughts of others. And if we're going to employ people, good people, one assumes, why wouldn't we listen to them? Because if they're good, you know, they're going to bring good ideas. So we can read the books and we can have, you know, help to get over that. And I would have thought that one-to-one coaching and mentoring is going to be really useful. You know, have someone else to talk to on a regular basis about it. And that support can be very useful. However, I think the thing that will make the difference is asking your direct reports, your peers, the people working for you, to give you feedback on a regular basis. Make it possible for people to catch you doing things right and catch you when you haven't done it right and give you that feedback. They will help you stay on track. There is no magic wand that you can wave and then it's sorted. It's a continual process, fighting against the habits of a lifetime. So yeah, make it a habit to ask for feedback from people on a regular basis and make it easy for them to give you that feedback. Listen to it and try your best to take it on board.
Excellent. One of the things I've seen, and you tell me whether this is common or not, and because Suzanne said she has had trouble delegating in the past. And so part of what I've seen with some consultants is they think there is a right answer, and they know the right answer. And what I've tried to encourage people, you can tell me if I've gone astray here, is that you have a right answer, but there are other right answers, and whatever actually helps the client, because remember, it's not about us.
Yeah,
we got to set up. Consulting is not about us; it's about the client.
Absolutely.
Therefore, as long as your other member of the leadership team that you're going to trust in, you trust them to create value for the client. Doesn't mean they did it your way. Doesn't mean they gave your answer, but they made the client better off, consistent with your IP. Then that's good. Now, is that fair or not fair as direction?
Absolutely. Generally speaking, because we're such a small practice, you know, I am always going to be involved in an assignment, even if I'm empowering and delegating other people to do stuff. I'm still going to have some involvement. And I tell you one thing, that very practical thing that's really helped me over the years to, I think, get better at this, is many years ago, I would do loads of work up front. I'd come up with the right idea, which is my idea, of course, as you said, it's the same thing, apparently. And then I would consult with my team and say, hey, what do you think of my idea that I've put hours into and crafted? And what I mean is, tell me how good this is. And when they have the temerity to be critical of your idea, because you asked them, we don't always respond to that very well. I don't have a poker face, so they can tell really quickly when they're not ticking the box of, Sean, this is a brilliant idea. What I've learned to do now is not invest much time or energy up front. I'll have a few ideas, but I deliberately don't go into that meeting, that team meeting, whatever, with a bunch of ideas that I've fallen in love with. And it helps me stay much more open-minded to the ideas of other people. Sometimes being less prepared is a good thing.
Yeah, got it. So if you're not so wedded to your own ideas, so for Suzanne, you might find it a little bit easier to bring in other folks. Okay, that's excellent. A couple of questions coming in. Dan, your question about what's the best approach for expanding business with existing clients, we're going to put a pin in that and save it to next week. So come by next week, back next week. That way we can focus on questions that are really appropriate for while Sean is here. I want to take advantage of that. Michael Aronson, what is the best way to work with the leadership at affiliate consulting partners? So it sounds like if you're working together at a client, when working together in different areas at the same client. So does it mean sort of like Sean and I are doing very different things at the same client? Is that where, hopefully that's what you're talking about, Michael. And from your standpoint, Sean, what do you think? What's the best way to not just create alignment inside your firm, but perhaps alignment with other firms and leadership to the benefit of the client?
So I think it's probably about, a two-stage process, which is building some relatedness with the person. So, getting to know them as an individual, getting to know them as a person just makes things a lot easier down the line. Don't jump straight into the content, the ideas, socialize, get to know people a bit better and help them to get to know you. And then I think the second thing is to be very authentic and very open and acknowledge that it could go wrong and express that and go, look, you have your expertise, I have my expertise. But we're both consultants and we're problem solvers. We're enthusiasts. This could go wrong. If I tread on your toes, please let me know. If I stray over that line and start pontificating and giving ideas and answers in an area that is expertise for you, and you want me to back off, or maybe not back off, but listen more, you have my permission to just tell me. All right, be open about it. And I guess in doing so, you may also get the permission from the other individual to do the same for him or her as well. So acknowledge it, put it out there, have a laugh about it, whatever, and then we're ready to rock.
Yeah, I love that. So amazingly, you're saying that first things first, remember this is a relationship business.
Exactly.
What a surprise. So create a relationship with your colleagues at the other consulting firm. And then I love this idea of, and let's be open with each other, at least behind the scenes. Client doesn't have to see it, but if you're frustrated with me because I'm treading on your toes, you got to let me know. Yeah. So it's sort of, is that right? And sort of inviting that.
Be curious about what expertise and experience they bring. There may be things that about them and you think, well, that's their niche, that's the box that they live in. Well, be curious, test that, be curious. You might find that actually they have experience in other areas, and they may have experience in the thing that you thought you were showing up in as the expert in. And you need to know that up front and in advance. It's about being open. Something us Brits are perhaps not famous for being, but I'm breaking the mold here, David.
Look at that. You're doing wonderfully. And as an aside, sort of an aside, when you build relationships with a consulting firm inside one of your clients, you're talking to someone who obviously has some connection with the type of firms you work in also. Mm-hmm. And so there might be some sort of collaboration that allows you to bring them into other clients and them to bring you into other clients. Because clearly there's some overlap in who you target. So that's a pretty good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Love that. And we're getting lots of great advices, which it is, Sean. You've given great advice. Jared, did we have another? I'm almost positive we had another in the bag that people had suggested. Morgan, how do you address a senior member of the firm who's excellent with clients but destructive internally? I'd like to say I'm asking for a friend, but I'd be lying. Oh, this is a great question. We see this a lot.
Yeah. So I guess there's a fairly well-established process of helping people to look in the mirror, gain some self-awareness, and understand who they are and their impact on others. And that's, it's generally a good thing. It's generally a good thing. And there's a whole bunch of things you can do there. One is some form of psychometric, a personality inventory or a behavioral inventory. And if people fill it in, complete the questionnaire in an authentic way, then the report that comes out, it depends on the product, but generally speaking, it's going to be useful. And that can be a bit of a shock to people, if they've not got that self-awareness. The second one is, some people need help to develop their emotional maturity, their behavioral flexibility, and therefore, as somebody who designs and delivers a lot of training in this arena, I would say, yeah, of course, training is very valuable as well. But I think the thing that makes the most difference is the follow-up. It's the feedback. And as a senior leader in an organization, I'm afraid, like it or not, the responsibility is on you to help that individual to stay to the true path, thereafter. And inevitably, like all of us will fall off the horse, and we need to help to get back on again. And Kim Scott's book, very famous book, Radical Candor, I think does a great job in explaining how to do this. Do give feedback, be honest with people, but do it from a position of care, do it to help them, and don't just stand from the sidelines being critical. So you do need to jump in there and give feedback in the right way. If you haven't read her book, it's great. I thoroughly recommend it. The final thing I'll say is I read a report not that long ago, which was looking at the relative value of different kinds of feedback. And they said that one of the most valuable kinds of feedback is when somebody has tried to make a difference, has received some feedback and gone, right, okay, I need to show up differently. And they're starting to do it. They're putting the energy and the effort into doing it. And you've got to notice that and catch them doing things right quickly to say, hey, I noticed what you did there. You're making the moves in the right direction. Keep going.
Interesting.
That is one of the most valuable pieces or types of feedback. You need the feedback originally to tell you you're not doing something well. You need to do something differently over here, but to be followed up by congratulatory feedback to reinforce it and keep it going.
Okay, so let me ask you a quick question, because before we came live, you and I were talking about a situation where there is a senior leader who can be a little bit toxic internally or challenging internally, and their boss seems unwilling or has difficulty giving that feedback. And I'm guessing that's not unusual, that there are a lot of bosses who have trouble giving feedback. So for all the people who are listening here, perhaps they struggle. What would help them deliver feedback when the feedback can be difficult?
So at Erskine Nash, within our team, we have a habit of giving and receiving feedback in a very informal way pretty much every day that we work together. So for an assignment, we will bring together a team, which is normally, it could be anything between 2, more recently 6 people working for the day, with a client. And at the end of the day, over a pint or whatever it is, a cup of tea or whatever, we just go round and we say, hey, you know what? The one thing you did today that I really liked was this. The one thing I think you could have done differently, so it's a future positive, is that. And I think it's a bit like coaching. People think that a coaching session or a feedback session is a formal thing. There's almost like a sign on the door saying feedback in progress. And actually, it can be a conversation in the corridor. It can be a 2-minute conversation with a cup of tea in your hand or a cup of coffee in your hand, and once you've done it a few times, it just becomes an expectation and a habit. It just becomes a type of conversation.
Exactly. Well, that makes a ton of sense. I could ask you questions all day, and probably will once we're done here. But look at that. We've eaten up our 15 minutes. So thank you all for joining Sean and me for the past 15 minutes. Sean, thank you for joining us. For everyone, if you don't have davidafields.com/Monday Live in, as Jaron has put there, in your calendar as a recurring appointment on Mondays, please put that in. And that way you're reminded to join us every Monday. Even if you decide not to come, you'll remember that you could. And if you don't receive my articles every week, subscribe. Again, Jaron put the link. Thank you, Jaron. And finally, make sure you're connected to us on LinkedIn. We just have mine over there. Sean, I don't have yours. We should get yours posted in there. Maybe we can post that after the show so you can connect to Sean also if you'd like to. And with that, thank you again so much for joining us. I hope you have a fabulous week. And remember, as we said early on, consulting's about them. It's not about you. It's about your clients and your prospects. So give them value and give them kindness. And we'll see you next week. Take care, all. Thanks again, Sean.
Thank you.